everyone, and happy Thursday. Welcome back to another live session. Today will be the last of this series on growing your own food. So, today we have a guest from Flourish Farms, Izzie or Abigail. I feel like you have different names you go by. But this lovely young lady has her own farm and she's super passionate about this topic and has lots of great insights. And yeah, like she's young, but she's on it. And I think we can learn a lot from her today. So yeah, just waiting for her to join. But for those joining, let me know how your week has been and if you've started to grow anything since these lives. I know I've been growing stuff and it's going right now. I'm hoping maybe Izzie can help me out. um, but yeah. Hey.
Hi, let's see here.
Hello, hello.
Can you see
Welcome.
me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're very faint.
Hmm. I hope it's not my headphones. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, let me turn my volume up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that can work.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, yeah. Not too bad, not too bad. Um, so yeah, introduce yourself. Obviously, I know who you are. Your followers know who you are, but my followers don't know who you are. And I guess I should introduce myself as well. So I'll
Okay, you
start.
can go first.
So I'm Chantal, and I am a dietitian with a passion for plant-based diets and helping people to transition to a plant-based diet. And in the last month, I've taken up the challenge of starting to try and grow my own herb garden. Um, and yeah, I think if we're trying to eat plant-based, it's also really good to actually grow some of the stuff that we use. So yeah, I've started these lives to help encourage people and give some tips and tricks to help with the process. So yeah, that's me.
I love it, love it, love it. All right, so hi everybody. I'm Izzy. I am a micro small scale farmer in northern Florida and a garden consultant, and so I help people learn to start their gardens. I also grow microgreens and I grow a couple things on the farm. It's a micro farm, which means that we take a small amount of space and we produce it to the best that we can, and the maximize and on the production. So it's very small, but we try to get as much as we can out of it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm also a full-time student, so there's that.
Wow, that sounded like a lot.
It is.
That sounded like a lot. Um, okay, cool. Um, so yeah, what made you get into like farming? It sounds very niche and like you're very young. So yeah, how did that all start?
Right. Okay, so if you see me glancing at my computer, it's because I have like a list of things I'm supposed to talk about. So keep
No
going
worries.
back. Okay. Um, okay, so I started growing things. I grew up with a childhood garden, I guess you could say. And those
Mhm.
people who follow me know that when I grew up, I hated gardening. I was the one
Wow.
who would like go crying to the garden because I need to go pull weeds, and I just hated it. It wasn't my thing. Um, Through a series of events that I'll talk about eventually one day, I ended up getting involved in agriculture, like as a serious thing, because I'm one of those people that when I start doing something, I have an entrepreneur mindset. So if it's something that can like be useful, I'm like, oh, let's just go big or go home, which can be
Mhm.
detrimental, but in this case, it was not. um, and so I kind of started doing more research and getting involved in it to a point where I was like, I'm gonna do this for a business, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so I'm guessing you're like living at home, right?
I'm living at
So
home.
how?
We live in the country, and I farm on the land that we live on. My
Okay.
dream, hopefully, in the next 3 to 5 years, is to get a good, nice sized parcel of land and upgrade from micro to small scale. and use that land for the farm and the farm only. So I can have a farm shop there, farm stand. Since where I live currently is still my place of residence, I don't have people coming out to the farm like that. I rather bring things to farmers markets and things like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow, sounds so cool. So like, are your family? I think you said you grew up with gardens, right? Like,
Yeah, we grew up with a small family garden. They have their own small family garden. We aren't farmers. I'm a first generation farmer,
okay.
and they do help me out now and then on the farm. I'm not home right now, so they're actually the ones there. I'm doing it virtually, and they're actually doing all the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It's come kind of the end of where I would close my season off, let the soil rest, like let me rest, and then I'd come back in uh, middle of August, September, and start doing everything all over again to get ready for the next season. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So like, how do you know what to do? How did you learn?
Okay, so lots of research, lots of mentorship. My mentor is Clara Coleman, who is a farmer in Maine in Four Season Farms, and she's very big in the agriculture world. I was really blessed to get her as a mentor.
Mm,
Her and books. I'm a nerd, and so when you take someone who's a nerd, someone called
wait.
me.
Okay.
When you get someone who's a nerd, and you mix it with agriculture, you get an ag geek, and that's what I am. And so I love, love, love reading agriculture books, doing research. It's a lot of trial and error, but I would say a lot of reading books, a lot of watching stuff, a lot of research, a lot of trial and error, and seeing others' trial and errors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to learn from that as well, and it's yeah. I don't know. I guess when you're really passionate about something, the learning part of it just comes, really
Yeah,
easily.
it's natural because you want to
Mhm.
learn how to improve and get better.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So like, what kind of things have you grown over the? I don't know how long you've been doing this, but since you
Okay,
started.
so one of my biggest, I think this is the funniest thing, is that my cousin's on. So one of the funniest things is that I always was one of those people who was like, I'm never gonna grow this, I'm not gonna grow this, I'm not gonna grow this, I'm only gonna grow that. This particular thing. I started off as a flower farmer. That's what I wanted to grow. But for those of you who follow me on my account, you know I have some illnesses, and so flowers are like so high maintenance. And I'm not a
Mhm.
high maintenance person. And I was just like, yeah, this is not gonna work. I do grow flowers still, but I'm not a flower farmer.
Mhm.
So I ended up growing two low maintenance vegetables. So tomato season is almost done, but I had a greenhouse of tomatoes. Um, I had eggplants. I had zucchini. No, I had cucumbers. Sorry, not zucchini. Um, and I had, let's see, I'm trying to think. Give me a second. I had radishes.
Mhm.
I had sunflowers, dahlia. No, I had sunflowers, snapdragons. Well, my brain is just blanking. I had sunflowers, snapdragons, zinnias, and cosmos, and lots of basil. So I had like all those things growing in the area there, and then I had microgreens, which is something that grows year round. And that was one of the things I had said for sure I would never, ever, ever, ever grow because it wasn't
Mhm.
for me. And now it's like one of the best things that I have grown ever. And I think that even if I stop like farming big size for whatever reason, I will always be growing microgreens for
Mhm.
people to buy.
Mhm.
Um, and because you can grow them in your apartment, you can grow them in your room. And if you go onto my page for any of Chantal's followers, you'll see that I promote them a lot. You can see that you can grow them in your apartment. I sell kits so you can grow them on your windowsill, so you don't need a big space to grow microgreens, which is why I love them, and they have amazing turnaround times. So, yeah. But one of the tips that I realized with small scale growing is you have to grow very specific crops and a lot of those crops. So, me saying that
Mhm.
I only grow, I don't know, cucumbers, tomatoes, eggplants, and then those cut flowers, and I feel like I grew something else, but I can't remember. So those, I think I grew five things,
Mhm.
and those five things, you plant that little bit and you produce a lot of that little bit instead of producing a million things and only getting like three.
Small amounts. Okay,
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of what you do is to sell, like the entrepreneurial aspect, not
Yes,
really
I
just
sell. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I sell, and I consult people. So yeah, no, I don't give away credits.
Nice, cool. Um, okay. So I guess we can go right into tips and tricks. Um,
Okay.
Maybe I'll start with asking you some questions about my herbs. So I bought this like kit. Only have a flat or an apartment, as you guys would say. Um,
Fire.
so I bought this kit that had seeds and like the inflatable soil thing, like you put it in water and it
You
pops
add the
up,
water in it.
right? And yeah, like I just bought that, followed the instructions. It's been about like 2, maybe going 3 weeks,
Did the
and
herbs come up?
some have. Like it's weird. Like some shut up quite a bit, and then it kind of stopped. Like this is what the time looks like.
Oh, it's cute.
Um, but it's been like this for like a week,
Hmm.
and so I'm like, what's going on? And it's the same with the parsley, but it's just like these two little. Wait, and then the others, similar things happen. There's a bit more.
Oh, so you see, that is that cilantro?
Um, yeah, we call it coriander.
Yeah, coriander, cilantro. That
Mhm.
needs to, I could identify it. You have to thin those out. So pluck them away so that the ones that will end up growing have a lot of room to grow. The other
Uh,
ones that have shot up and died, or are dying, or like the small one next to it, the what's
this
that?
one.
Like, yeah,
This is mint.
interesting. It could be too much moisture. It could also be not enough light. It could be that
Mm,
the seeds were planted and they didn't have enough foundation, so they were planted on the top and they didn't root well enough, so they shot up, but they're not able to root, and so they're having a bit of footing. Your
mm,
sage and your coriander look amazing. Your sage needs to
okay.
be plucked out a little bit, but it looks good. Those
So
are
when
the
you
two
say
best ones.
plucked out, like taken out and like repotted,
No, so
or
this is
just
the hard part of
separated?
farming. You need to take out some so that the stronger ones can grow really
Uh,
tall, and you end up having to throw the little small ones away. That way that it has room to grow and root. Otherwise, it'll get all choked out.
right. And then they will grow bushy, like you'll get a lot of leaves from
Mhm.
it.
You're gonna have to end up transplanting them at some point into a bigger
Right,
pot,
right.
but yeah.
Okay, cool. Guess that was like a mini consultation. Um, I just really was curious as to what was going on because, yeah, it looked like a lot was happening and then it's stopped, and I don't know if I've done something wrong.
No,
Um,
no. Sometimes it's just the environment. Sometimes,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, cool. So, tips and tricks. I have my flat. I want to start growing food. Where do I start?
Okay, so that's a good question. So my number one tip would be to figure out, so like, do you have a place where you could put your stuff outside? Are you gonna be growing mainly inside? Like, so the location of where you'll grow your stuff, and like, where do you get light? Where do you get the most light in
Mm,
your house or in your flat or your apartment? Um, and then the next thing I would do is go and start to figure out, okay, with this location, with this amount of light, what can grow well. So good things are like your coriander, your basil, your sage, good windowsill plants. Okay, you'll get nice little pots for those. You'll plant those. And for people who are gardening for the first year, you don't always have to start from seed. I know a lot of people say seed, 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 buy from seed, but I don't recommend that. A lot of farmers don't always do that. We purchase from some wholesale companies seedlings because there's just sometimes
mm,
where succession planting gets. I did that this year. I planted most things from seeds, but some things I had to end up buying some organic seedlings from another farmer to plant because my
okay.
succession planting and I was just so tired. So there's nothing wrong with buying seedlings. It's great to buy seedlings, especially your first year. You know, there's a lot going on, and you may not always have the environment where you can start seedlings and have them
Mm,
grow up and be healthy where it would be worthwhile for you, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, so my tips would be location, figure out what you want to grow, and then take it from there. And I'll tell you, growing in a house is slowly and seriously experimental, because sometimes the temperature in the house will change and the plants won't like it, and sometimes it'll be this and you can't figure out how to get it to that. And so, but what I would also say is to really make sure that your plants get enough light. Your plants need light to create photosynthesis, which is their food. This is like, plants that are yellow, they don't have enough photosynthesis. And sometimes you'll notice that when you plant something, it shoots up really tiny and spiggly. It's called leggy. There's the scientific word for it is very long, and I remembered it until just now. But pretty much it's where the plant it shoots up but doesn't have enough light, and so it becomes really leggy and isn't able to create photosynthesis.
Okay.
And so that's what happens in that situation. So you would really want to make sure that wherever you put your plants, you're getting enough light. Um, and if you have an area where you can put your plants right outside your apartment door, if you're on the first floor, or if there's an area in the back, I don't know how it's set up, but you can put something there. Definitely try that. I know some people who have done that, and they have in little buckets their little herbs and some little food stuff like peppers and carrots as well.
Okay. Cool. Did you have another
So
one? Because I feel like you were on a roll, so I didn't want to.
no, go ahead.
No, continue. Continue if you've got more.
I don't really have more. I was gonna ask if we were gonna move on to the gardening and allotment.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay, so a lot of people don't really know what allotments are in the U.S. because we don't have those here really.
Uh,
So what allotments are, it's like a parcel of land that is rented specifically for the purpose of gardening. I didn't know what allotments were for the longest time, and then when I got really involved in the agriculture community, I see all these like allotment gardeners and all these things, and I'm like, what in the world is an allotment? So I had to Google it. And there's some really awesome accounts on here who do allotment growing. I've never grown an allotment, but I talked to them, got some experience, some advice from them, and it's kind of the same thing as starting a garden.
right. Right.
So if you're going to do allotment growing, which is like how a lot of people in the UK grow in gardening, because unless you live in the countryside, you don't have space, like yard space, I assume. So
Yeah.
that's what my friend told me. So allotment growing is like the thing. And so for allotment growers, I made a whole thing. Sorry. One thing you would want to do is find your ideal area. Obviously, if you're able to rent it to get it, find your ideal area. When you find that ideal area, you're gonna want to make a plan with that location. And what I mean by plan is like a garden plan, because you want to grow in a way that is not only economical, sustainable, but also convenient for you. Because it's a little bit different when you're not like right at the place where you're growing. You have to commute there. And so, let's see. My computer special needs, so give it a minute. I'm waiting for. Okay, so you really, really, really want to aim for planting perennial things. So there's three types of annuals. There's perennials, biennials, and annuals. Perennials bloom back every year, so every season they come back. Annuals last one season, and biennials come back every 2 years.
Okay.
Okay? And so when you're planting on the allotment, look at things that are perennials, like raspberries, um, rosemary, artichokes, things that are low maintenance, because you're not going to be at the allotment every single day. You're going to be there maybe twice a week, maybe once a week. So perennials, they're low maintenance, meaning that they just need to be watered, trimmed up sometimes, and they give you stuff every year. Oregano is another one. A mint is another one. So like herbs and fruits and veggies that are perennials, those will save you a lot of time, because you have to think low maintenance. I know there are some people who spend hours in their allotments, but especially if you're a young person, you have a lot of stuff going on and you're working, you're not always going to be right at the allotment site. And so making sure that you plant things that are low maintenance is key. And I recommend that for almost every gardener and farmer. Plant things that are low maintenance. It saves you a lot of time and money and energy. Um, so I know a lot of people want so bad to grow everything organic, and I am 100%, I grow things organic, but sometimes when you're on the allotment, not everything you do can be grown organic because of things that you can't afford and the area that you're in. And this is also for regular gardeners as well, who have the garden on their properties, I'm trying to say. You want to aim for organic, but don't be overly strict to the point where it's like, if this rosemary is not an organic plant, I'm not buying it. I'm not going to plant it. No, I would go ahead and plant it if you want rosemary. It's a very good herb for healing purposes and dietary purposes as well. So I would still recommend you to get it. So for allotment growers, you really want to get rid of old equipment and old plants. If you're taking over someone's allotment, I would 100% recommend if what you can't sterilize, get rid of. For the point that disease spreads very quickly with plants and other things, and you don't know what their methods of growing were, and the old plants that are sitting there could also be causing disease in the soil. And you're coming in, you want something new, something fresh. You want to make sure that what you're doing, your soil and your plants and the equipment that you're using is healthy. What you can salvage, but otherwise I would recommend that you get rid of it. Okay, now you don't need a lot of equipment when gardening or growing on allotment. I think this is like one mistake that a lot of people do, is they go out and spend a ton of money on equipment and then we realize that we don't even use half of it. Best stuff: garden fork, shovel, and you're good to go. Like, those are like the two, and a wheelbarrow. Okay, and the reason I say that is because a lot of us are on low budgets. Okay, and garden fork you can use for weeding. You can also use a shovel for weeding. And you don't want to wait till it gets high enough that you're going to like hack it down. You want to weed step by step. Okay, that's a point that I wanted to make. Now, also for allotment growers, I got a lot about that. Be selective of what you grow. This is for gardeners who are growing in a small space and allotment growers. Being selective of what you grow is very important. Same thing for micro farmers. We don't have a lot of space, so if you want to produce a good amount of stuff, you want to be selective that you also grow hardy stuff, because you're not going to be there, low maintenance stuff, and don't have like 100 things that you're going to plant and run out of space. Because also remember that you're planting in a small area, so you want to see, okay, if I grow this, how much square footage, or use the metric system, so yeah, how much will that take up? and and how much will that take up for you? And that I will have space for everything else that I want to plant. For example, planting sweet peas, those grow vertically. So you can plant a good amount of those, grow vertically, and plant in between them things that don't grow vertically, so horizontally, if that makes sense. That's also for people who are growing in a small space. Okay. And my last but not least tip for growing an allotment and gardening, before I separate the two, is think about the seasons. So what seasons will be happening? What can I plant when? Will I really be going to the allotment in the middle of winter? I don't know. Some people do. Some people would rather stay in. And what can I do to help protect the allotment if I'm not there? People overwinter. People hay their beds, put straw there. People plant garlic. Things that will overwinter pretty well. And then you want to also think about water traps on the allotment, because water that sits for too long can also bring disease and mosquitoes and a lot of other things that you don't want to deal with. So when you plan an allotment, it sounds like a lot of work, but I promise you, once you just get it done, like the final planning steps done, then it will all be good. Same thing with gardening. It sounds like a lot of work, and people like to break it up into a bajillion steps, which to me it's like 3. I like to say you want to budget, you want to plan, budget, and maximize on the minimum amount of space that you have. When those 3 steps, there's like a lot of sub-steps, but those 3 big steps is what it really takes to plan a garden and grow your own food. Because studies show that people that grow their own food, even the kids, are more likely to eat it because they planted it, they don't want to waste it, type of thing. Yeah, so. Yeah, did you have any questions? I did have some people send in questions. One of them, I think, was, we kind of answered, but what are good things to grow in a small space? So I would say herbs, definitely herbs, for multiple reasons. In fact, let me make sure I'm telling the right question. So if they watch the replay, they see that it was answered. Let me just pull it up. Hold on.
I've got a copy here when you're done as well.
Okay, you can go ahead with yours first, because I'm finding the question that she sent in.
Okay. The one question was, so I guess this is kind of a joke, thing. I know you said this. How do you not have a black thumb? So I guess how do you have a green thumb? Is what you
Okay,
could say.
I get that. Well, honestly, I don't think I have a green thumb. And that
Mm,
sounds really weird for someone who's
that really
farming.
does.
It does because I don't know. I don't know. I don't like to use the word green thumb because there are some people who literally everything they plant anywhere it just grows, and I'm just like, what? How did that
What's the
happen?
secret?
But
Yeah.
I don't have a green thumb, and I'll tell you that because you can cultivate a green thumb. You just gotta
Mm,
think about things. You know what I'm saying? There are
mm,
some people who were born with the talent, and then there's those of us who kind of have to cultivate it. You understand what I'm saying?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So I don't have a green thumb. I cultivated it. And how do you cultivate a green thumb? I would say practice, persistence, or perseverance, and really looking at things and growing easy to grow things. I mean,
mm.
there's some people who I will say they really can't grow things that well because, like, I know someone who, and they don't mind me saying this, they killed a cactus, and it's very hard to kill a cactus. You know what I'm saying? So there are some people who struggle with it. It's not their ministry, but but it can be cultivated. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
my number one tip would be to find a low maintenance plant that you like. Preferably, I mean, I'm not a houseplant person. I love houseplants, but I'm not very good with them. They
Mm.
don't live with me, okay? Like, they die. I, I kill them, okay? Which is very funny. A lot of other farmers have said that too. Like, they're good with outside plants, but when it
Yeah,
comes to
but not.
inside plants,
Mm.
no. I'm learning. I'm really trying to learn. So, like, I
Mm.
would say, for example, something that's kind of kill proof is rosemary. I have a friend, like, I'm looking out the window right now over the trees into my friend's yard, and she does never ever takes care of her rosemary. It's this big, beautiful bush. So, I would try starting with rosemary, cultivate it, take care of it, and then go to another herb. Herbs are easy. Oregano. I think of some herbs that are like kill proof. Um, and start with those, and you can
Mm.
get rid of your black thumb. It should help.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question, if you have any more.
Yeah. The other one was I don't know what this word means, but you might know, probably know. Do you use an almanac?
Almanac? Do they mean? Hold on, let's look. Let's look what that means. How's it spelled, by the way?
A Almanac.
Do they mean? Because there's two. The only almanac I know of is like a calendar. So
Okay.
it's like a weird version of a calendar that they use to keep track of dates for your farming. Yes, I
Maybe that's
do.
what it is,
If
yeah.
that's the question, yeah, I do. You have to keep track of your dates. I don't use like an actual almanac like the whole layout, but I use a planner and a calendar and Siri. Siri is my best friend. I use her 24/7 making notes. I have to take inventory and all those things of when I planted this and when I didn't. And even if you're not doing
Mm.
farming for consumption or for production for consumption, in other words, if you're not doing it to produce food for the people to eat, you would need to um, have a calendar. Sorry, my brain blanked for a second. You would need to have a calendar um, to take note of what to do and when you planted what, just so you know when's coming up and
Um,
what's coming up and things like that.
okay, cool. Thank you. Those are the only questions I have so far.
Okay, so let's find the question. All right. So someone said, how do you get started when all you have is a tiny balcony and no yard? So pot gardening, bucket gardening. I have a video on this on my Instagram, but I will actually be talking about this a lot more now that it's fall. Um, Bucket gardening is a cool method that people do when they don't have yard space. So you get buckets, and I would even you want to make sure the buckets you get are either plant containers or BPA-free buckets that you put holes in the bottom with. Meaning because sometimes the sun, BPA is a chemical that can alter your hormones when it's digested, and when the sun hits the bucket, it seeps into the soil, the chemicals release, and then your plants take that soil, and there's traces of BPA in your plants.
Oh,
too much work.
okay.
So you can look at bakeries. Sometimes they get rid of the big buckets that their frostings and things come in,
Mm,
and they'll sell them to you for really cheap. Up here in Walmart and other local bakeries, they get rid of them, and so they'll send them back to the company or they'll sell them to you. And so we just buy them for like really cheap. And you can make bucket gardenings. I use them for harvesting and making teas for the plants and things like that. But bucket gardening works that way. So you get your plants on that balcony. You can grow things like tomatoes. You can grow things like carrots. You can grow some potatoes, like 1 or 2 potatoes. But you can grow your little herbs and things like that in a bucket garden on your balcony, and it works. It's gonna take a little bit more work to get the dirt up there and stuff like that, like carrying up the stairs
mm,
or whatever. But it works. Just a bucket garden. Um, and in the bucket garden, you can get very specific. So you need to make sure that you plant like some carrots, a tomato. You can plant potatoes, like I said before. A lot of herbs, your rosemary, your basil, your thyme, your lemongrass is really good for growing in buckets.
mm.
Um, but yeah, that's like the brief answer. If you want to get into detail, you can always message me.
Oh,
Um, let's see. Oh, what are some good plants to eat to help with my digestion? I guess it's actually a question for you, not
that's more
for
a
me.
nutrition question.
Yeah.
Plants to eat to help with digestion. That's really testing me. I guess it depends what the problem is.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Digestion's a
I don't
bit
think that's like a
broad.
blanket. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a
not a
very
blanket.
unique, specific situation.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
do
mean,
know that
generally, go on.
rosemary and basil tea help with inflammation. I know that from personal experience in the digestive tract. So in that area, that can help with that. But she's the professional when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah, and generally speaking, papaya or papa, whatever how would you say it,
Yeah, where you from?
and pineapple have bromelain, which is an anti-inflammatory and it helps. It's got digestive enzymes, so that's also good for digestion. Um, there's some other herbs as well, but yeah, it really depends on what the actual
What
issue is.
the? Okay,
Yeah.
so to the individual who sent you that question, I think you can DM Chantal and follow up with her. I'm
All
not the
right.
nutritionist. I did get a bunch of other questions, but I ended up answering them, like all of them, throughout the whole thing. And
Okay.
so I don't have much else to say unless you have any personal questions or anything you want to follow up with. Was it helpful?
Just I guess one question I could ask is with separating this sage, as you suggested. I know you probably use a technical term, but do I need to take the soil out and like pull the weaker ones out?
Mm-mm. So you just take the container, right?
Yeah.
And just pull the weaker ones out just like that. Or you can snip them with the scissors if you're afraid if you pull, you'll pull like everything out. So you can
The
snip
ones
them
that
with,
look like smaller.
yeah, like the weaker ones and keep the
Okay.
strong ones.
Uh,
Yeah, like
okay.
so.
And how? Okay.
You can leave like 1 or 2 in there or 3.
Really? That's it.
3. I mean, you can leave like 3 or 4. There you go. And then you can transplant them eventually. That would help.
And like I don't know if you know, like these sage, some of them are like prickly and some of them are like not
So
prickly.
because they're developing their true leaves,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So they're getting rid of their baby leaves and they're developing their true leaves, and I think all of them are at different stages of it. And
Uh,
so, yeah.
right. Okay. I feel like such a kid because I don't know.
It's good, it's good, it's good. I'd probably be the
Oh,
same way if
dear.
someone questioned me on nutrition, so, all the technical things.
Okay. And so like in terms of the transplanting stage, um, is there like how do you know when they're ready to transplant?
So you want to wait on average until the plant has like 4 to 6 true leaves.
Okay.
I go with 4. I mean, don't tell nobody, but I've transplanted before the plant got all the full leaves because I had to transplant it or otherwise I'd be out of space in the greenhouse. But go with like 4. for true leaves.
Okay.
You want it to really grow up, and then you can transplant it into like a bigger pot.
So you just get a pot and then some like all-purpose compost. Is that
Mhm.
sufficient?
Yep. And then
And
you pot it up and water it. Boom, boom, bam.
okay, and to know what the true leaves look like, I guess I can Google that and I'll get pictures.
Yeah, you can just Google how sage looks and that. But you also can text me, so.
True. Okay, cool. Sounds simple enough. I'm really just looking forward to actually having like, I think
Food.
I bit off too much. Like I thought, oh, I want to have all of the herbs. Not they're not all of the herbs, but like a good
Mhm.
variety of herbs. But now like there's so many and they're all doing different things, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I think next time I'll just work on one at a time, so I can give that one undivided attention, get it to grow, and then do another one. But
Yeah, you can imagine
yeah,
what it's like running an actual farm with a
yeah.
million.
I really admire you guys that do it
Oh
and
yeah. So I think you
provide the
can do
food for us to eat.
it. I think you can do it. You just got to those little ones that look like they're not doing too well. I'll ask you for some more details later, but that look like they're not doing too well. You can probably nurture them back to health. They'll be okay.
Okay.
Um, I know that time isn't always like a lot of water, so maybe the water intake on the time is,
Mm,
or like the way it's planted, the seed fell, it's like growing weird, so it's like stunted. There's a
mm.
lot of weird things that plants are like particular about.
We're a bit like humans, really. Like if
Yeah,
we're not treated right when we're growing, then
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Cool. Well, I think that's it. I haven't seen any more questions, so thank you very much for your time, and thank you to everyone that's joined and everyone who will watch this later. And now you know Izzy, you can follow her page, check out her reels, check out her stories, check out her consultations, check out her microgreens. If you're in the US, you can order from her and her
Mhm.
kits. Yeah, and yeah, just thank you for sharing with us today. And I
No
encourage everyone
problem.
that's
Thank you for
watching
having me.
to get growing. I think over the last 3 weeks, people have just been like, just start with whatever you have, whatever space you have.
Yep.
Just start the process and learn
Start
as you
it.
go. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, we'll get better and better.
Yep.
So thank you very much. And yeah, hope you have a good rest of the day. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.